I apologize for this, but somehow, you have computer problems sometimes. We're having one. But anyway, everyone, my name's Charlie Moore. I'm here with Juanita Heckel, and this is the Frank R. Wallace call. Usually it starts out a little quicker than this, but it's the way it goes. I have to get used to not looking at the screen tonight. Anyway, I'm going to skip what I usually talk about up front because I really want to get to what we're going to do tonight. Because tonight I have a lot of new people on tonight because I talked to a lot of people this week, especially today, and I know a lot of them want to hurt you. Thank you for coming. Usually we'll talk about something out of the Frank R. Wallace books, but tonight I do this about every 6 months, and it does help. So take a lot of notes tonight. I'm basically going to talk about how do you prepare yourself when you come to these calls mentally, and how do you prepare yourself when you sit down and read this literature. It's very important how we approach everything. And anything that you do with NeoThink, you want your mind to be open, you want to be teachable, you want to have that mind ready to do integrations. And if that's not done in a sequence, you have a harder time understanding everything. I started this. I'm not going to take a lot of time on my story here, but when I came here 12 and a half years ago, there wasn't much activity in the society then. It was just basically starting out like this. And for the first 12, 13 months, I talked to no one. All I did was read books. And I got caught in this like right from the beginning. I thought this was the best information that I ever received, and I dove into it. And I was reading it, I was buying the books, and I'm reading it, and I didn't know if I was getting it or not, but it just fascinated me. So at one point, they had a backlog on a book. So I didn't get that book yet, and I just finished the book before it. So I had nothing to read. Now, this is about, 8, 9, 10 months into this. And so for 8, 9 months, for every day, I was reading something out of these books. And now I had nothing to read. So I said, oh, God, what am I going to do? I really want to read more. So I decided to go back to the first book. Now, back then, our first book was The Inside Secrets. It was a lot different than The Inside Secrets today. And I started to read that, and I noticed about 20, 30 pages in, and it hit me. I said, I don't remember reading this before. And I'm a big reader. I've been reading my whole life. And it hit me. I said, well, geez, why am I not comprehending this as much as I thought? And then it hit me. There's a lot more information here than I thought. So I said, okay, I gotta change my approach to this because I really want to learn this as fast as possible. So it took me a few weeks, and I finally sat down and I said, all right, I gotta study these books, not read them. Now, what's the difference? Reading is you just come in, you sit down, and you start reading, and all you do is read it. You're not really comprehending it, and you're not really using integrations to understand it. So I start marking the books up. I'm underlining this. I had all kind of those colored pens, and I'm putting them in blue and red and green and yellow, and I'm writing in the columns. I'm just writing stuff down. And I start to read. So then when that book finally came that I was waiting for, I just put that on hold. It just sat there. I was going to read all these books again, and that's what I did. And it worked very well. I was getting a lot more information out of it, but some days I was still like reading, and I said, man, some days I'm not picking it up for some reason. And I would put the book down, and I'd go back, and then maybe I was a little better then. Anyway, I went through all these different processes over the years, but then I was here for about 12 or 13 months when I finally talked to Steve Fagan, who's not here anymore. He did pass away about a year and a half ago. And me and him got really close because, I went to his clubhouse and blah, blah, blah. then I was, so we were talking back and forth because we knew, he knew I was like right there with him, just about on every page, because we ended up talking a lot more. So then we started talking about how we got this, and not many other people are getting it as fast as we did. And we both had like the same background, where he said he dove into it in the beginning, I dove into it. We started marking up the books. We didn't even talk to each other then, but we were doing a lot of the same things. So we end up attacking it even more and making it better about how we approach this. So then it got to the point was, well, where's it? Because a lot of people call me and say, Charlie, I've read 4 or 5 books. I'm just not getting this. And I'm thinking, I said, well, are you doing, I'm marking up the pages, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but they still weren't getting it as much. So me and Steve I said, Steve, I said, maybe I said, the way that I should do this was I would sit down, like, it's my mini day, read the literature. And I would sit down and I start reading the literature. And then I started to notice I wasn't keeping track as much of what I was reading. It was going back and forth for a while, and then it hit me. You have to, all right, now, and we need to take notes on this. If you are doing mini days, and you should, because that's really how you're going to get integrated, but in the meantime, but when you go and sit down to read, now say you said I want to read for half hour, I want to read for an hour, whatever, before you even open up the book, I want you to sit there and think and ask yourself a couple questions. And this does work. Why am I sitting down to read these books? Real simple question. Why am I reading this book? What am I looking to get out of it? What's in it for me? Questions like that. And answer yourself. Well, I want to pick up this because right now I'm in the middle of learning how to do the mini days, and I really want to find out how to do these. Things like that you want to answer yourself on. So you have a goal now. You have a purpose for reading this. But the last question that you should ask yourself, this should take you about 5 minutes. Just let yourself calm down first, because maybe you were running around and now you want to sit and read, but your mind's still out there in the AC world. You want to just calm down, and you want to say to yourself, am I teachable right now? That is the last question that you should ask yourself. Am I teachable right now? On a scale, you can do it scale 1 to 5, 1 to 10, doesn't matter. But answer that, and answer it honestly. And you can sit there and say, I'm a 10. All right. And when you say that you're teachable, and you really truly believe that you are at that moment, there's no better time to open up that book and start reading. Because your mind's ready. Your mind's saying, let me read this. Let me take this in. Let me hold it in here. Let me swallow this information. Let me absorb this information. Now your mind's open, and wow, you're going to see a difference reading these books. But if you sit down and you don't do any preparation, just open up the book, and you just start reading it. And have you noticed some days you read maybe, 5, 10, 15 minutes, and you can't, and maybe you read 10 pages by now, or 15 pages, or whatever. Do you ever stop and think, what did I just read? And you're having a hard time answering that question? If that happens to you a lot, stop reading at that point and ask yourself the question then, am I teachable? And more than likely you're going to say, well, maybe I'm only a 5 or 6 right now. When you say that in the beginning, when you sit there and you ask yourself, why am I sitting here reading this book, or why do I want to read this book, and you get all those answers for yourself. And then when you say, am I teachable right now? And if you say, well, maybe just a 5 or a 6 or something like that, don't open up that book, because you're not going to absorb anything. But what you want to do at that point is ask yourself, why am I not teachable right now? We learn from questions, and we learn from mistakes. That's the only way that we learn in life. Questions answer. And this is how we get rid of mythicisms. This is how we do everything here, is looking inside. And it's a good habit to get into. So when you're sitting there and you're not teachable, you have to ask yourself that question: why am I not teachable now? And sometimes it's going to be really obvious when you ask yourself that question. Geez, yeah, no wonder I'm not teachable, man. I just had a big fight with my wife, my husband, something, and it's still bothering you, okay? Or, I just had a phone call and I got aggravated with that telemarketer. I mean, it could be anything, and sometimes it could be something very little, but it's bugging you. It's bothering you. So what are you going to do? So you have to ask yourself, you know what? It was that stupid telemarketer on the phone, and he really got to me, and I'm still mad about that. Why? Why are you? Let it go. When you had a fight with your spouse or your significant other or whatever, that was kind of a silly, stupid fight. I got to apologize to her when I get off this call. But right now, I got to let that go. And all of a sudden, you're going to feel better. So when you deal with what you think is stopping you from being teachable, all of a sudden you then ask yourself the question again: all right, where am I now? And more than not, you're going to say a 10. Or maybe it's something really heavy on you. Maybe there was a death in the family, something like that. Now, it was something that serious. It might take you a few days to get over that, to where you can at least start to read again. I would suggest, though, I'm a firm believer you should be reading these books every day. Every day. But if you can't one day, because you're not teachable, and it's a real serious thing that's going on in your life, don't read the books, because you're not going to get anything out of it anyway. But, on the other hand, if you're not preparing yourself to read these books, and you're just sitting down, just put the kids to bed, or you had to work today, it was a bad day at work, and I think I'm just going to read. And then you sit down, you don't do any preparation, and you start reading, you're not going to get much. But if you do that so many days, because I've seen, I can't tell you the number, because I have no idea what the number is, of people leaving the society because they wasn't getting, or they weren't understanding this information. And more than likely was, they were reading it, but they weren't comprehending it because they weren't teachable at that time. And you get frustrated. Geez, I'm spending all this money on these big books. I'm not a great reader. You're having all these excuses that you're telling yourself. And then you say, you know what, the heck with this. This isn't worth it. This isn't working. And that's it. And then they just walk away. That's the biggest mistake any of us can make. And I've seen it. I've seen thousands of people come through here in these 12 years. And it's a shame. And I tell you, I bet you if you go back and ask any of them, they will tell you two things. Why'd you leave? Well, I wasn't understanding the information. All right? And they just didn't care anymore, and they left. And they just didn't get it. And then they start blaming Neothink. Oh, that stuff's no good, blah, blah, blah. And they go on and they go on and they go on. We are sitting. And a lot of us here on this call, especially newer people, you have no idea what you're sitting on here. You are sitting on the best information ever written. Ever. In the history of mankind. I'm serious. There's nothing out there like this information. Now, you don't believe that in the beginning because you don't really know. You're just reading it and reading it. Now, yeah, I'm getting this, I'm getting that, but like you're not putting the pieces of the puzzle together. You're not thinking with integrations yet. You're not enjoying it. And that's the whole key. Once you start to prepare yourself to read this information, and then you start to comprehend a little more, and then you start to comprehend a little more, and then a little more, and it goes on and on. Now, the best part of your day is going to be your mini day when it's time to read these books, because you're going to get excited now because you're learning it. So when you sit down tonight to read it, if that's when you're planning on reading this, you're going to get excited because you know that you're going to learn. That's how you overcome this. You've got to be. It's a mentality with everything that we do in life. You want to quit smoking, you have to have the mental mentality first. Or what's the sense of trying to stop? Because you won't. It's that way with anything in life. If we don't have the mentality for it, you want to go on a diet? Well, you better be ready to go on a diet, and you have to mentally prepare yourself. Why am I going to go on a diet? And how much weight do I want to lose? Do I want to lose this amount or that amount? But why do I want to lose it? And answer yourself why you want to lose weight. Or if you want to start an exercise program, or if you want to do that, you have to be mentally ready for it. We have to do that with this reading. And it's the same coming to these calls. You know how I get really upset sometimes in the beginning of the call when I hear people come on this call and get the TV blaring in the back, or there's family members or whoever else is in the house. You should be in a room with the door closed, unless you live alone. You can keep the door open then. But you have to, I would suggest you just don't run into the room where you're going to call and then just sit down and call. You do the same thing as when you're going to open up the books to read. Sit there first and say, all right, this call's usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Why am I going to spend the next 2 hours on this call? What am I looking to get out of this call? I know that they're going to cover this tonight. Do I really need to know this? Why do I have to know it? Any questions that you can think of, and you just want to relax, take some deep breaths and just relax and get the AC world out of your mind. Now it's time. Now you're entering the civilization of the universe. When you dial that phone and you start hearing all these members say hi like tonight, and everybody's saying hi and it's crazy, and then all of a sudden you hear me saying not so nice words sometimes because I couldn't get on the line tonight. It's this will bring you out of it. Hearing that all that noise there, that's energy. You'll understand that more when you sit there and say, man, I'm ready to go. I know that Charlie and Juanita tonight is going to teach me something. And they're going to teach me about this or that, or they're going to teach me Cassandra's Secret tonight, because that's what we're going to talk about tonight. That's when you, oh man, I really like Cassandra's Secret, but I'm not sure if I really understand all of it. That's how you should be. That's where your mind should be when you come on this call. I shouldn't hear TV noise in the background. I shouldn't hear somebody having a family conversation. You should be in a room with the door closed. Peace and quiet. You're ready now. And then just before you dial the phone, am I teachable? That's the most important question that you could ask yourself in any situation. I mean, imagine how much better we would have done in school if every day when we went to school, we asked ourselves, am I teachable today? Am I teachable for the math class or for the English class or for the science class? Am I teachable right now? Imagine if we had that kind of knowledge back then. Imagine if our kids today were going to school and asking that question. Imagine if the teacher said that to kids. All right, students, is everybody teachable today? And she explained it all, right on day one of this. Look at the difference it would have made in people's lives. So it's that important. But when you're sitting down and you're reading these books, you should have excitement. You should be excited as hell. Oh man, I'm gonna read. I couldn't wait till I got home from work that first year. I couldn't wait to get home, and I would do. This is how I would do it. I go home, and at the time I was living alone, so I would come home. I would cook dinner. I just wanted to get all that out of the way. And the rest of the night, I read. And I couldn't wait to open up these books because I was learning it right away. Then when I figured out that I wasn't doing it as good as I should have been, then I really got excited. And you can test yourself, because it's funny, because I had to do that escalation program for Mark Hamilton. So in fact, there's probably 5 or 6 or 8 people on this call tonight for the first time, because I talked to them today. And I hope they're all, and I know a lot of them are, because I heard their names come out. They didn't know what this call was going to be tonight, that it's not going to be this normal call. And I just lost my train of thought here. I've never had a good point, too. It'll come. But it's so important for us to get right, yeah. Now I'm back to it, excited. I get people on the phone sometimes, and they're bitching and complaining. Excuse the language, but that's how they are. Man, I'm not learning this. This is a bunch of crap, and blah, blah, blah. And they go on, and I let them go. Let them go. And then when they're finally done complaining, I'll say, are you done now? What do you mean? I said, are you done complaining? Oh, yeah, I guess. I said, well, do you feel better? Oh, yeah. I said, well, you should. You just complained for 3-4 minutes, you know. I said, now, let me ask you this. Where do you read the literature? Well, I have this little office where I go into the dining room and I read there. I said, do you have your books like on a bookshelf or? Yeah, you have them on a bookshelf. I said, when you walk into that room and there's the books, and like you're not reading, but you're just in the room to do something else, and you see the books, how do you feel when you see those books? And he said, what do you mean? I said, how do you feel? What's your first, like, what would be your first thought today? Oh, I spent a lot of money. I said, and then you wonder why you're not understanding this? Is that what you see when you see the books? Money that you spent? I said, what else do you feel? Oh, well, you know, I'm just not understanding it. And I tell you this, and if you're new, you don't know me as well as other people here know me. I don't lie. I try to be as honest as I can, especially on these calls. This is coming from my heart. That's where the passion is. I can walk into my office, look at those books, and every time I do, I get excited. Because I know if I pick any of those books out, open up to any page, I'm going to learn something new. I'm still reading these books after 12 years, and I still get excited reading them. I honestly do. When I'm getting ready for a call, and I'm looking up, oh yeah, and then I'll go dig deeper. It's amazing the stuff that I will come up with that I didn't realize that angle before. And that's a challenge. So, yeah, do I know the books? Yeah, I know them. But I got to keep pressing myself. I got to keep pushing myself. Because I've been doing these calls. I've done over 1,800 calls here over the years. I was doing calls sometimes, 6 of them in a week for a few years. That adds up real fast. So I don't, and I don't get bored doing these calls. So I have to push myself all the time. And ask Juanita and ask Karen, because I push them sometimes. Especially Juanita. I pushed her over the last few years a couple times. and she get panicky and all that. I said, Juanita, you'll handle it, don't worry. I said, I'll handle it. Don't worry about it. But it's just, you have to push yourself, because I want to stay excited for these calls. You're relying on me and Juanita tonight, and then on Sunday night you rely on me and Karen to teach you something. That's why you come. So we got to be fresh. So I'm always looking at different ways of explaining this or doing it differently, or that's why I started the study guide program on Saturdays once a month, because it's a different way of looking at this, and I still think it's the best way for us to learn. So it's constantly, but that's what Neo thinks about. It's about us pushing ourselves. It's about us not standing still. It's about us constantly moving forward. They say that sharks never stop, even when they sleep, or if I don't know if they even sleep or not, but they're constantly moving. And that should be us, constantly moving forward. I don't care what age you are, it doesn't matter. I'll be 70 this year. God, I even hate to say that, but I'll be 70 this year. I'm no youngster, but yet this keeps me going. I do get excited with this because I have to constantly push myself. I have to constantly keep the people that I work with. And if and when I sit down on a call, I get the highest call numbers every week, every day that I'm on. And that's okay. I'm not sitting here bragging about that. It's just that I keep them that high because I believe it's because people trust me. People trust that I'm giving them the right information. And I've earned it over the years. But that's how, Steve Fagan was a big blessing to me. He helped me understand how to do this. I helped him. He helped me. It was just this great thing. But he always said, and this is what I really learned from him more than anything else. Remember who your audience is. And I've always remembered that. And here, yeah, you're all you're all in neothink, but you're on all different levels here. There's some people here for the first time tonight. There's people on this call who've been here for, I don't know how long this call is. Where are we at, Juanita? 300 and some weeks now, right?
312. 312, Charlie.
This is show 312. I've been on every one of them except for maybe 2 or 3, But it's just, that's a lot of calls. That's just one call. But my excitement level is still here for this literature. And one of the reasons why is, it is one of my Friday night essences. I love doing these calls. I love teaching neothink. I love learning new things from neothink. It makes me such a better thinker, and I can see through the illusions. And I can see this and I can see that. And then when people call me on the phone and they're complaining, and I'm thinking, wow, that's, it seems like I'm having a harder time as I get more integrated to understand, but I understand it. There was a lady the other day I was on the phone with, and this was definitely a different call. And she says, I said, so how can I help you? Oh, she says, well, I'm so glad that you called. She says, I ordered your first book. I says, Miss Annabelle, yes. She says, she says, I was about halfway through Miss Annabelle. And I don't know if it was friends or family. She says, but people that I know and that I love and care for, they would tell me that this was a ripoff. She says, so I sent the book back. I said, really? She says, yeah. I said, well, then why are you calling today? Well, she says, I'm thinking about that I want to order the book again. I said, what do you mean you want to order? She says, so I said, first of all, I said to her, I said, do you know what neothink's really about? And she says, well, not really. I said, well, neothink's about you becoming your own self-leader. Now, your friends or family, whoever it was that told you that this was a ripoff and this was nothing good, you immediately sent the book back like the next day, right? Oh, yeah. I said, why? I don't know. She did, I said, you didn't really know that at that time, did you? That you were just following what they said. You were just being a follower. And she goes, I was. I said, I said, so now you want the book back? Yeah, she says, I want to finish that story. And then she says, could you tell me a little more about what this can do for you? And I spent about 5-10 minutes with her. And at the end, she says, boy, I was really stupid, wasn't I? I said, you said it, not me. But you want to, now, some of the people that I talked to today seem very excited about this. And they said, boy, why didn't I know about these calls before? Well, I can't help you there. This is a strange organization sometimes. But you're here now. That's all that matters, is that you're here. And now you have to make, especially for the people who are brand new here, you have to make that commitment to yourself now. Well, I come on this call every week, or just about every week. And why come on some of the calls on the other nights? And that's, again, it's always up to you. You're not forced to, but you should be looking forward to those calls. But you have to be mentally prepared to do this. You have to ask yourself every day, where is your desire? The one thing that I don't want you to forget, and I bet you a lot of people here really do, and I'll ask people something, especially like when people call me on the phone, I say, well, I just want to stop this. I'm not getting anything out of it. I said, well, let me just ask you some questions first. Oh, okay. I said, you can quit. You don't have to listen to me at all. I said, but when you ordered the first book, and you spent your $139.95, I said, that's the most you ever spent in a book, right? Except for maybe if you went to college, but otherwise, that's the most you ever spent in a book. Yeah, I never even bought a book before, and now I'm spending $140 on a book. I said, but why did you do it? What was in you that said, buy this book? Now, some of them have to think about it. And some people say right away why they did. I said, so now you want to stop. after about 6 months or so. Did you learn what you wanted to learn here then? No. Did you read the books? Well, I read a little. So you really didn't want to change that much, right? No, I want to change. I said, well, no, you don't. Where's your desire level? Again, it's back to the question. Have you ever asked yourself that? How bad do you want to change? How bad do you want to learn this? If you don't want to, and you have to take these inventories sometimes daily. And that's a habit that you got to start doing. And I tell you, the more that you ask yourself questions every day, the more you find out about yourself. And when you start finding out more about yourself, in fact, I told one of the new people today on the call, I forget which one, I said, I'm still enjoying finding out who I am. And I am, because I'm still changing. Yeah, I've stepped backwards at times over these 12 years. I've gone through some rough spots here, like everybody else has. But on the whole, it's been fairly great to me, this whole thing. But I have to constantly remember where my desire level is. Am I teachable? Am I taking truly 100% responsibility? And I still am not doing that. I might be at 80% now, 85%, 90%. I don't know. I don't know how you judge that. But but it's just, I'm taking more responsibility now than I ever did in my life. And that gives you confidence. That gives you that power that we always wanted, that we were either afraid of or never knew that we had it. All this, by just preparing yourself on a couple of different questions about why you come to these calls, and why are you reading the books, and why you came here. And remember the main reason why you came here. I came here because I just wanted to find out who the hell I was. I had no idea who I was. I was 57 years old when the first book came. And I was skeptical when I bought it. The letter came. I didn't, in fact, it came like on a Tuesday, if I remember correctly. And I start reading it. And, Mark writes these long letters, and about halfway through, I said, and I threw it up on the bureau. But for 2 days, it bugged me. I didn't read it for 2 days. So Thursday came, and I knew I had to have it in by Friday. So I read the rest of the letter, and I said to myself, if he's just half right, if just half this letter is right, I want this. So I did it. So Friday I called up, and so for 30 days as I was waiting for the book, and I kept saying to myself, if this book's just half right, if this book's just half right. No, I'm sorry. My first question was, if the book comes, that's how skeptical I was. If this book comes in 30 days, read it. And then I was saying, all right, so if it comes, read it. And then if it's just half right, if it's just half as good as he claims it is, I want it. And that's what I said every day for 30 days. And the weird part was the book came exactly 30 days later. And there it was. And the rest, as they say, is history. But it hit me. And then that first night, again, I ate dinner first before I even cracked open the box. And I got everything done because I was really excited. And I sat down and I tore it open and I started to read. And I told this story. Some people said he's telling this again, but I must have been reading only 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes tops on what I can remember. And I quietly closed the book. And I got up out of the chair, and I literally, and I mean this, I literally danced around the house. I knew I found what I was looking for. I didn't know why at the time. I just knew it. And if you had put a gun to my head, I think I was reading in the Inside Secrets. He starts out basically with the Self-Leader program and the mini-day schedule. That was the first piece of information that I read. But the difference between what he had there, because that's pretty dry reading now. It's not like really this exciting reading. But he was telling you, Mark Hamilton was telling us step by step by step what to do. Now, I never read anything like that before. like back then I was buying these, feel-good books and positive thinking and all this crap that was out there, and nothing's working. And I'm thinking, geez, what's wrong with me? Well, there was nothing wrong with me, I found out later. It was just that those books were full of crap. They weren't telling you exactly what to do step by step. They were just giving you generalizations. These people were making money from the books. They weren't making money from people coming back to them again and again. So I was very fortunate. I still feel very fortunate that I got it right away, that this was it. Just because he was telling you what to do. And he does that throughout the literature. We were just on the webinar last night, and we were talking about, I think it was in batch 5 or 6, about how to put like the mini days together. And at the end of the call last night, we were talking about this one paragraph, and at the end of the paragraph, Mark says, now do this. When you go into Vision 1 out of the 12 visions, and you're reading about becoming the person that you were meant to be, about your Friday night essence, 3 or 4 times in Vision 1, Mark says, stop here and do this. Because he's telling us exactly what to do. And yet, I bet you 99.9% of the people who read Vision 1 at the first time, including me, did not stop at that when he said, don't continue, do this lesson right here, and then continue. And yet, some people don't even realize that he even said that. I said, I'll come back to it later. And I just kept reading. And then when I went back the second time and realized that I missed so much, you bet I stopped there. So these are the little tricks of the trade that it took me years to find. And between me and Steve, we really fine-tuned it. And we talked about it a couple of times when he was still on these calls. And I do this, I don't know, because after a while, I think people either aren't doing it or we have new people here who haven't listened or heard it before. So I think it's great for the people. This is your first call, and you're finding out this information now. Take advantage of this and do this. It really does make a difference. When you're teachable, you'll be amazed at how much more information you're picking up that first time around. But I tell you, if you don't believe me about picking up more as you read these books the second time, if you have 6, 7, 8 books here, stop where you're reading, go back and pick up Neothink One Key Book, which is the second book that you got, and just start reading it from page 1, and tell me that you didn't miss something. It's amazing what you'll find out when you go back for the second time. It's amazing when you go back for the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh. No matter how many times, I don't know how many times I've read these books. I really don't know at this point. But I still learn every time I do. It's incredible. I can't believe either maybe I won't learn something brand new, or I'll say, geez, I haven't thought about that in a couple of years. Wow, And then all of a sudden I'm really into it. And now I'm pushing out in the calls, because look, I learned something new. Not really, but yet I forgot all about that. There's so much information, and I could talk for hours on this, but I just realized the time. Juanita, do you have anything to throw in here?
Do you want me to